Hello and welcome to Yes, You Are Brave. This is a podcast where we are going to set off on a journey together to find and build our brave, where we explore all the ways that you have been brave and all the ways that you can be brave again. Because even though we may have forgotten or we may have fallen out of practice, we're all brave. And I'm on a mission to prove it and help you believe that yes, you are brave. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Yes, You Are Brave. I'm Pawnee, I'm your host. Super duper excited that you are here. Let's talk brave. That is why we are here. We are here to talk brave. So, also, tiny disclaimer as well. I am sitting here. I have two dogs in my lap. And so there may be some extra noise in the background. But let's talk brave today. So today I really wanted to talk about being brave enough to grow instead of get old. Now, let me explain this a little bit. So, not too long ago, one day in church, we had an older gentleman speaking. For those of you that are not aware of how church meetings work in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, generally speaking, members of the congregation are the ones that speak, that give the sermons. And so a couple weeks ago, there was this older gentleman. He was speaking, and by older, I'm saying he was probably in his 80s. And he gave a really great talk. It was actually, I think, on Easter. But one of the things that he said that hit me really, really hard, he said, "The older I grow." I don't even remember, honestly, what came after that. I just remember him saying, "The older I grow." And it really hit me because I thought, wow, he didn't say the older I get, the older a lot of people are always like, oh yeah, the older I get, or they kind of make getting old or getting older a really casual thing, something that just kind of happens to them. And I loved what he said, and the reason that I love what he said about the older I grow was because it made it intentional. It made it feel like he was doing that on purpose. That he was not just, oh, I'm getting older, or, oh, like, this is what happened, it's happening on accident. No, he was being very intentional about how he was aging and what was happening as his life progressed. So today I want you to think about being brave enough to continue growing, despite what other people are doing around you, to grow older instead of get older. So let's talk about that for a few minutes and I think what it really comes down to is being intentional with your life and with your time. And I know that sounds like maybe an oversimplification of things, but let's look at it for a minute and the fact that, like, if we don't do things on purpose, does that stop the way that things happen? Because life is going to happen. It can happen to us. It can happen for us. And the choice is really up to us. Are we willing to put in the effort to keep growing? Are we willing to be intentional and to choose what comes into our lives and what happens in our lives? Or are we just going to throw up our hands and leave it up to forces outside of our control? Now, there are forces outside of our control. There are things that we can't control. There are things that happen that we just don't have any control over, and that does happen. But I think that happens a lot less than sometimes we admit, right? There is a lot more that it is in our control than is not. And the other thing that I wanted to really emphasize is we have the choice to be growing. And that's not necessarily always the popular choice. It's not necessarily the popular choice. It's not necessarily the easy choice to decide to grow, especially when those around you have decided to be stuck where they are. And I say they've decided to be stuck where they are because indecision is also a decision. It's something that I have come to realize in the last couple of years. When we refuse to make a decision, we are actually making our indecision is actually a decision. We have chosen not to move. We have chosen not to make any progress, even if we are just saying, oh, well, I can't decide. And I realize that it's hard to decide things, and sometimes it's hard to be decisive, but indecision is actually a decision. So it's hard sometimes to decide to grow, to decide to make progress in our life. That can be really difficult. Let's not diminish how difficult it is to be the person that is growing when you have people around you who are not growing. So what can you be doing to grow in your life? What areas of your life need attention? And I'll be like, I don't have all the answers for you. I kind of wish that I did. But I don't have all the answers because everybody's life is different. What everybody needs in their life to grow is completely different. And there's not just one blanket statement. Well, there's not just a one size fits all, right? We know that is like not really a thing. But there are a few things and areas of your life that I would challenge you to look at and see, is this a place that I need to grow? Or is this a place I can grow and I'm willing to grow so that I can be better? And the first area that I would say that maybe you need to take a look at and you need to see where you can grow and if you can grow in that particular place is going to be in your health. Okay, here's the thing with your health. I am never going to stop saying that you need to take control of your health. And the reason that I do that is because, my friends, I finally took control of my health a few years ago. I decided I was done being miserable and sick and all of the things, and I figured out what was best for me. And in doing that, my life has improved so much more. When I took time and was intentional about my physical health, and I realized that I was worth the effort that it took to change my physical health, to drink the water, to go to bed at night, to eat things that weren't full of crap, because let's be real, in the United States especially, a lot of our food, especially the easy stuff, is full of crap. So when I did that, my life completely changed. One, I didn't feel awful anymore, didn't realize how bad I felt until I started feeling better. Then I was able to, and I talk about this in a couple of previous episodes, which I'll link below, I was able to realize that because my physical health was better and I was no longer in physical pain and all of those physical discomfort, I realized that my mental health was not where it needed to be and was able to take steps to get my mental health into a better place. So I did that, and then it just kind of grew from there. My life is so much better now than it was 4 years ago when I decided to make the change and take control of my health. I am able to grow in ways that I never imagined and do things that I never imagined because I took control of my physical health. I stopped eating all of the crap. I started sleeping better. Sleep became a high priority on my list. And I also just started eating better. Now, I don't know what's right for you. Like I said, I have a program that I feel like works for me and a lifestyle that works really, really well for my body. Has made me feel so much better. But I don't know exactly what is your answer. But you need to decide that you can take control of your physical health. Maybe it is that you need to start sleeping more. I don't think that very many people in the world, and especially in the United States, sleep enough. We don't sleep enough, and it's not overrated. Enough sleep has now been scientifically linked to so many things. So if you're not sleeping well, a lot of the other things are not going to be able to come well as easily as well. They're not going to be able to come. So first of all, sleep. Secondly, drink enough water. Drink more water. I guarantee most of you are not drinking enough water. And then past that, you need to figure it out for yourself, what good health looks like to you so that you can continue to grow. Because if you are constantly in a state of pain, if you're constantly uncomfortable physically, there's only so much you can do to grow as a person, because all you're doing is managing your physical symptoms. All you're doing is being able to just survive. And that means that there's only so much thriving you can do. So the first thing that I would say, if you want to keep growing in your life, is to take control of your physical health and also realize that you deserve to be able to do that. You deserve to take control of your physical health. You deserve to be able to feel better. So you are worth the effort. That's number one thing in adopting this growth mindset and this idea that you can keep growing no matter what people are doing around you. Take control of your physical health. The second thing that I would say that you need to do to be growing instead of just getting older, because time is going to pass, right? So we can choose. We can choose to be getting older, or we can choose to be growing older and hopefully wiser. So the second thing that I would suggest that you do to continue growing, despite what other people are doing around you, is to decide that you're going to be intentional about what you do and what comes into your life and how it comes into your life. Now, I know that some things, like I said, some things we don't have a huge control over, but a lot of things that we do. We get to decide what comes into our lives, and we get to be intentional about that. So starting with like the things that we listen to and the things that we read, the things that we watch, are those building you up or are they tearing you down? Do you feel good afterwards, or do you feel kind of crappy and not great? So that's the next thing that I would tell you, is to be intentional about what you consume. And I don't just mean that, yes, we talked about food and things like that for your physical health, but also for your mental health. What are you consuming? Are you spending hours a day watching the news and it's just making you depressed because the news can be depressing? Are you watching TV shows that just kind of like make you feel blah and stuck? Or are you listening to podcasts that make you feel better? Are you spending your time consuming information that's helping you reach for new things, that's helping you feel better, that's giving you ideas of new and better things that you can do with your life? So what are you consuming? Is your news feed on social media depressing and heavy, or is it light and uplifting? Because I know some people are like, oh, social media, it's blah, blah, blah. You have a lot more control over what comes through on your social media than I think we realize sometimes. For example, during 2020, we all know what a dumpster fire that year was. And I was really struggling with a lot of things, like a lot of people were. I was struggling with my mental health, and I was just struggling because everything was so crazy and so depressing that it was really hard to not feel depressed and to not just be stuck in that depressive hole. And so one thing I decided to do was I decided that I was going to change what my social media feed looked like. And so as I was on social media, I tried to limit my time, first of all. And then the next thing that I did was every time something popped up on my feed that was about, honestly, baby animals, I turned my Facebook newsfeed pretty much for 2020 into baby animals. It was about zoos. Anytime there was a birth that they announced, any zoo around the country announced a birth of a baby, I would interact with that. I would like it. I literally turned my newsfeed into baby animals. Now, I couldn't tell you what the latest disaster was, but I could tell you that, hey, the zoo in Cincinnati had a new, I think that was the year they had a giraffe. And the zoo over here just had a baby rhino. And over here, there was a baby hippo. That was what I turned my newsfeed into. And it was actually really nice to get on there, and there was these happy things, and there was things that were uplifting, and there was things that didn't pull me down. It helped me to be in a space to be able to grow. Because if we are consuming all of these things that is just negative and heavy and hard to handle, then it is really hard to grow in that particular environment. So what are you doing about your environment and what you're consuming physically and also mentally and emotionally? What are you consuming, and is that allowing a growth opportunity? Are you able to grow in what you're consuming on social media or through regular media and what you watch. A couple of years ago, I got into, somehow on Netflix, I discovered Ink Masters. It's a show about people, tattoo artists, right? I had watched this tattoo redo thing, and then I was like, "Ooh, this is really cool." And I think tattoos are fascinating in the art aspect. And so I watched this show, and it was really quite negative. The people on there, it was very, very highly competitive, and it was very much like kind of tearing each other down, and it was very much this competition that people were not super nice to each other about. And it was, like I said, it was really fascinating. I really enjoyed the art of it. There was only a couple seasons. And then shortly after that, I found makeup show called Glow Up on Netflix. And it is a British show, of course. And so, but it was so crazy to me, the difference. Everybody on that show, yes, they were all competing for the same thing. It was a big, huge opportunity. It was big, huge prize. But they were so nice and so supportive to each other. And so that's when I kind of decided maybe I don't really want to watch these American game shows that are super negative and super, like, they're just so competitive that they're not, like, they're just kind of tearing each other down. And it's like, oh, well, they didn't deserve it, I deserved it. And it was just really contentious. And I realized that I didn't like that. I love the British shows that they're like, yes, they're all competing for the same thing, but when one of them beats the other one out, they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, like, you're so good. And it's just a different feel. And I feel like it's more of, for me personally, it was more of a growth. It supported the growth mindset that I was trying to have in my life. And so I've kind of shifted what I watch. When I watch things, when I need something to watch that I don't really have to pay that much attention to, actually in the middle of the Great British Baking Show at the moment, things that are just more conducive to me growing. So whatever that is for you, you know what that is and how it makes you feel. The last thing that I would say about things like this is the people that you allow to be in your life. And I realize that some people are in our lives, we can't really change that through work and family and things like that. But the people that you spend the most time with and the people that you listen to need to be people that are uplifting you. And you get to decide how much access people have to you. And if there are people that are not good for your health, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever it may be, if there are people that are not great for your health and not allowing you to grow, then you need to limit their access to you. I realize that sometimes we can't just straight up cut people out of our lives. That's not how it works all the time, but they need to have limited access to you. Do not allow people unlimited access to you that are not supporting you in your goals and in your life. There's a whole thing, we could go into all of these things about boundaries and all this stuff, but listen to a couple episodes ago, I had an episode with Christy Modero, and she talked fantastically about boundaries. So go back and listen to that. I'll also link that one below. So don't allow people unlimited access to you. I would say period, but especially those people that are draining on you and what you are trying to accomplish in your life. If they are holding you back, even if it's in subtle ways, then they need to have limited access to you. They don't get to have a monopoly, they don't get to just have access to you and your energy all the time, especially if they are just takers and not givers. And the last thing that I want to say about growing old instead of getting old and growing despite what other people around you are doing is to just be very intentional about your life. You get to decide what this life gets to be for you. You get to decide how much happiness is there. You get to decide how much growth you are willing to do. And you need to be intentional about that. If you have decided that you want to be a photographer, then you know what? You get to be intentional about how you find time and how you find the energy and a space in your life for that photography. If it is really important, you will find time. And you don't need to be around those people that tell you you can't be a photographer. Okay? You get to decide how much you grow. You get to decide what goes into your life. And if something is in your life that is not helping you get to where you need to go, then maybe it's time to get rid of it. So just be intentional about your life and realize that your life gets to be amazing and wonderful. And a lot of that is going to take some time and some growth. This older guy, like I said, that spoke in church was really amazing, all of the things that he talked about, but because he had lived a long, full life. Like I said, he had to have been in his 80s, and he just had this mindset of like, I'm growing older, as in I'm not getting older. I'm not just sitting around watching this time pass and my things get blah. I am intentionally growing because it is under my control. It is something I can control. We get to control how much we grow. We get to control the direction that we grow. And I want you to remember that you can be intentional about your life, and you get to decide what comes into your life and what stays in your life. Just because you allow something into your life does not mean you have to let it stay if it is not helping you grow in the direction that you want to grow. So, my challenge for you this week is to look at your life and see if we can't shift our mindset to be more of a growth mindset and an idea of let's grow old, let's not just get old. And let's be brave enough to grow, even if the people around us have decided that they're perfectly content to be in the same place for the next undetermined amount of time. You don't have to stay stuck anywhere just because the people around you have decided not to grow. Remember that you are awesome, that you are amazing, that you are wonderful, and you can do whatever you want to do, whatever you put your mind to, and you are worth the effort, my friend. You are so worth the effort. Do not ever forget that. I love you, I believe in you, and I'm rooting for you. Have a fantastical day.
Thanks for listening, and if you enjoyed what you've heard today, please leave a review down below and share this with anyone that you feel like could use a little more brave in their life. And if you'd like to follow more of my journey to be brave, you can follow me on social media and link down below. Have a fantastic day, and don't forget to be brave.